What's up guys, Kowalski here from Templar to Airsoft. Today I have another install video for you today. I will be taking apart this A&K PKM and installing the JACK PolarStar system into it. It is very similar to the SAW gearbox. It does take the M249 kit, so I have the nozzle for it, the control unit for the magazine, and also the wiring for the 249 trigger switch. So let me get this inside and I'll take the gearbox out of it and let's get to the install. Alright guys, so I have removed the front assembly from the PKM completely off the gun. There are just 3 screws on each side, and then the front assembly will slide off. Just make sure you disconnect the feed spring that's right here when you do that, because otherwise it'll just tear it out and that would not be good. So I'm going to move forward with taking this apart and getting into the gearbox. We can start with removing the trigger assembly here. I've already taken some screws out, so make it a little bit faster, but there's one here for the pistol grip. And there are 4 other screws around the trigger itself. I've already removed 3, so I'll take the last one out. And it just comes off like that. You can also remove the stock. There are 2 pins that go into here. They're flat heads, so you unscrew those and then the stock will slide off. Just like that. Now to get the gearbox out itself, there are 2 screws on this side. There's one actually within the fake charging handle here. There's one here, and that will allow you to remove the gearbox completely. So let me get this last one out. Like so. And the screw that's inside here, it will stay in this track, so don't worry about losing it. It's not gonna go anywhere. So then your gearbox just pops out like so. There are also 2 screws that are in place here for the electronics of the gearbox, which plug into this 3-prong connector right here. I've already removed that, so make sure you don't miss these 2 screws so you can pull the rest of it out. So I'm going to take the shell and just set it aside for right now. So here we have the gearbox. It looks very similar to the 249. It's pretty much the same thing from A&K. So it has a quick spring change system. So we're going to remove the spring like so. That way you don't have to worry about the gearbox exploding in your face. Set those up there. Then I'm going to take all the screws out. You can unplug the wires from the motor as well, as you won't be needing that anymore. Alright, so once you get all the screws out, you can go ahead and lift the gearbox off itself and split the 2 halves. Watch the wires here. You can just push these back through. There's the one half, and here is the other. So obviously, same as always as the previous jack installs, you don't need anything that is in here, except for this one, you'll need the little trigger box here. So I'm going to take all these extra parts out and set them to the side. Take all the gears out. Take the bushings out too. Get some towels. Just clean up the inside of the gearbox. Obviously the grease isn't going to help you with the jack system. Don't need that anymore either. So now that you have your two halves, we can go ahead and take the rest of the electronics off of this one to remove that plug, as you will not be needing that anymore. Like so. So you're going to keep the trigger switch so you can unplug these from the housing itself. Just pull them off. They're on there pretty good. And trash. Or you can keep it if you want to sell parts for it. I would wipe down the trigger assembly. It's got some grease on there. Don't really need that at all. All right. So now you have your two empty halves and your trigger switch. Get some of this stuff out of the way. I'll get rid of all these Gearbox parts later. Okay, so let's take a look at what comes in the 249 kit. I've already taken everything out of the packages, so I'll just go over it real quick with you. I've got a bigger battery, so you last longer while shooting. The FCU, this has the new firmware on here, so you can do both the Jack F1 and the original Fusion engine itself off of one FCU. Here is the wiring harness here for the trigger switch of the 249. So this plugs into the FCU, plugs into the jack solenoid, and these go to the switch itself. And I'll show you how to do that. Here is the extra control unit to the magazine. So this allows the FCU to control how fast and when the magazine is auto winding itself. And it also comes with a extended cable for the port, so you can run this out to the magazine, because this needs to be in the magazine itself. And then of course we have the jack engine. Get this out of the way. I've already taken care of and putting a longer hose on here. If you guys are going to do that, you will need to use some heat from either a heat gun or a hair dryer would work to loosen this up, to pull it off, and then to put a new one on. Because I'm actually going to run this line out to the stock itself, so it's not at there's no way to run it to the pistol grip. So there's that. So jack is going to sit into the shell like so. It's going to sit in the spot and lock in. When you put the two halves together, it will stay. We can look at the trigger housing, or the trigger wiring harness right here, and how it's going to connect. So here's your trigger switch. It sits in the gearbox like so, with the little tab sticking downwards and the prongs facing the front of the gun. When you get this, the black one goes on top, and the white one is going to go on the top one, the one that's right below it. So, but if you put it on here, it's just gonna fire without even pulling the trigger. So make sure you put it on the secondary one after you put the black on. So like so. Let me show you guys the PKM magazine real quick. So this magazine is 5,000 rounds. A lot of BBs are going to go in here. I've already got a battery sitting in here. So here's your connector for the FCU control unit wire. this plugs into here like so, and then I'm going to show you how to run this from the gearbox outside and into here. So I'm going to leave that in there right now, along with its extra battery. So now what we can do is begin to actually install jack into the gearbox to make sure everything is, you know, nice and snug. Remember, well, I'm going to show you when we're installing this, there are going to be lines that are going to go run outside of the gearbox because they need to go to the magazine. I'm going to have the FCU run up where the release for the quick change spring was. So the FCU is going to actually sit up here, and the wire is going to follow it like so. So what you can do actually is plug in the wire for the solenoid itself, just like that. Just to give you an idea, this is how it's going to look like. I'm going to run this, try to keep that sit right there. You guys can really do this any way you like, as long as everything just fits in the gearbox. Not everything needs to be, the only thing that needs to be secured really is the jack unit itself and the trigger switch. So I'm gonna get this together and then we'll pick up from there. Alright guys, so once you have the gearbox shell back together with jack installed, you can go ahead to start to put all the screws back in. Keep note, I did run the longer cable for the GIO port from the FCU just through the gearbox and out the hole on this side. So this is going to actually stick out and plug into the magazine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the screws all back in. As if you can see this here, just the little switchboard that's in here, it's just sitting in there just like that. Trigger's in place, so it's all good to go for right now. So let me put the screws in, and then I'll get to putting it back into the body itself. Alright, also just to show you guys real quick before we get to putting it back into the body itself, I'm going to hook up some air to it, just show the functionality that everything works. I think the default on this, let's check the settings, is probably, yep, 30 rounds a second. So here you go. That's pretty fast. So now what we're going to do is we can get this back into the body of the PKM itself. So what you're going to do is run the line back. There is a hole back here that's already there from the manufacturer. Just going to run that to there. It will get, like, just be careful with the hose because it will get stuck a little bit, but it's not like an issue to where you get to worry about it breaking. This wire right here is going to actually go out this hole on the body to run to the magazine, so make sure you feed that through there and watch the spring for the magazine tube, or the feed tube, and just gently push this back into place. You don't need to go too far, just line up the holes for where the screws go, and you should be pretty much set. So I'm going to put the one screw in right here. Like so, and then I'm going to take the other screw that's in the false charging handle right here. So there you have it. Those two screws will pretty much set the gearbox in place, and you won't have to worry about any other movement. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to throw the trigger assembly on right here. Just watch the FCU wires. This simply sits on top like so. Make sure the trigger still fires perfectly. 4 screws that go in place. So once you have those in place, you go ahead and take your pistol grip and its screw and put it back on there. Like so. So you have it like that. Now what we're going to do is I will show you what I did for the stock to run the airline out of. There is a cover on the bottom here that's cut out. It's already pre-cut. You just need to force it out. You can run a hose down here and just pop the plastic piece out. I drilled the hole right in the middle for the line and able to pop it out like so. So what you're going to do is take the hose and run it down there. It's one nice slope piece, so you'll be able to see it, and it will come out the end here. Just make sure you catch it before it continues on. Just like that. Now you will have to make sure when you put these screws back in to push the line out of the way. Make sure it goes to one side, obviously, because you don't want to mess all that up. Just push it to one side. Maybe use something else to pry the little bolt over. Just like that. And then you can attach your screw. There's one. And there's two. So now what you can do is you can put that cover back on. If you don't like the way it sits loosely, you can probably a little bit of glue or something won't hurt it. And of course you can put your fitting on here. So there you have it. What you can probably do, which I think I might do later on, is put the amped grip line from where the hose goes to about here and then out. Just make that hole a little bit bigger so this doesn't get all the force on it, because they do eventually will wear down if you're pretty rough with it. Let's give it a quick test again now that the hose is in its proper spot. Yep, works pretty good. So now what you can do, I won't put the front end of the gun on because it's just easier to show you. You can take your magazine box and go ahead and attach it like so. Now when you open up your box, you're gonna have the, actually I gotta get that out of there. when you get your ammo box like this, here's where the cable is going to plug into. So you go ahead and latch this onto here like so, and then your cable that runs to the jack system itself plugs in to the port right here. And all you can do is you can take all of that extra wiring and push it down into the magazine itself, and that will hook up to your battery, so that way when you fire the gun, the FCU controls when the magazine starts feeding. Let me get this on correctly here. So just like that, it'll look like this. If you guys get those fake bullet chains that go over and hook into the piece here, it covers your one wire that's sticking out, and that's all that's going to be shown. And if you're changing magazines, just be careful. Take your time to unhook the wire. Otherwise, it might just be easier to open this latch here and pour more BBs in the hole. But that is up to you. So what I'm going to do now, anyway, though, is disconnect the battery, or disconnect the cable from the magazine, and take this off. So the FCU and the battery will sit up here, and as a usual, AK style, the receiver folds down on top. So there you have it. There is the PolarStar JACK install for A&K PKM. I'm going to assemble this now and get it tested, make sure the hop-up is good for what we want to do. This gun will be run at the next op at OXCC, which is on September 19th, Operation Outbreak. So be there. We'll be running around with this. I'm sure you'll hear it, but it should be a good time. So until then, see you guys in the field. Walski out.